Thought leader, meaning and definition. Prior to 1990, the term thought leader was barely used. And then something exploded. It started appearing in books, it started appearing in search engines, and people started calling themselves thought leaders. But is being a thought leader good for your business and your career? To answer that question, we need to define what is a thought leader, what does it mean to be a thought leader, and what are the key trends that are driving thought leadership in the marketplace. I'm Geoff McDonald, the Ideas Architect, and through Anywhere Experts, I help thought leaders turn their insights into expertise so they can earn money from what they know from anywhere. One of the best ways to learn almost anything is to discuss it with other people. Share this video with your colleagues so you can discuss our big question for today. Is it good for your career and your business to be a thought leader? To kick things off, let's look at thought leader, meaning and definition. Let's start with our definition. What is a thought leader? And the obvious simple definition is that it's someone who leads with their thoughts. For this to be useful, we need to understand how you might do this. Traditional leadership uses a command and control approach. Pretty much this is telling people what to do. To lead with ideas, ultimately you need to take a different approach, because what ideas do is they present alternative choices and fresh opportunities for people. For example, if you were going to buy a brand new mobile phone and you didn't know which one to purchase, where would you turn to? You might ask your mate George, who's the expert in your group of friends that everybody turns to and says, "Hey George, which mobile phone should I buy?" It's this reputation amongst your group that makes George a thought leader in terms of which mobile phone to buy. Is a thought leader an influencer? Google Books Ngram Viewer measures the usage of terms that have been used in books over the last couple of hundred years. And it's very interesting to compare influencer and thought leader through this lens. In this first example, we can see that the term thought leader wasn't used much until about 1990, and then it took off. However, if we compare this to influencer, we can see that the term influencer started to get used maybe 10 or a dozen years before, and then it took off and went way past thought leader. This suggests that the term thought leader is a subset of the term influencer. For example, we might look at the food blogger and say, yep, they're an influencer, but we may be less likely to call them a thought leader. I think the difference here is that a thought leader presents frameworks and ideas and distinctions such that they change the way we see our world. Whereas a food blogger might give us fantastic recipes that we can cook for the rest of our lives, but are they really changing the way we see the world? That's how I'd separate influencer from thought leader. And typically, we use the term thought leader either in business or in academia. So in business, it could be someone who's a subject matter expert within an organisation, or they might be an external consultant who writes books and gives keynote presentations. In academia, a thought leader is someone who presents cutting-edge research that shapes how we think about how the world works. Given that thought leaders and thought leadership is a relatively new term, where did it come from and what's driving it? I think there are three strong trends here that are driving thought leadership. The first trend driving thought leadership is how our work has changed. The big shift here is to knowledge work. If you go back a few centuries, most of us lived and worked on farms. Then we eventually moved into doing factory work alongside machines. And now most of us work in offices or at least on our laptop. And primarily our work is either us thinking about things or talking and collaborating with other people. And given our work is no longer with our hands and it's more likely to be with our heads and our thoughts, who are we going to talk to for the big ideas that we need to implement or consider in the work that we do? This is where thought leaders step in. The second trend driving thought leadership is about leadership and changes in leadership. Traditionally, leadership was based on the military model of command and control. This comes from the idea that one person had all the knowledge and therefore they were in a position to command and tell people what to do. That doesn't really work anymore because you've got teams of people who all know different parts of the puzzle. No one person knows all the answers anymore. It's no longer about that single piece of knowledge that makes the difference. It's about how we work together. And this is how leadership has changed. Most leaders, particularly in organisations, now focus their attention on how do they get people to work together in the pursuit of a single goal. It also means they probably don't have the time, the energy and the attention span to actually go and research all these new ways that they could be operating as well. They're simply too busy trying to herd the masses towards action that fulfills the primary strategic objectives of the organisation. And that's where thought leaders come from. They're that subset of leaders that actually spend their time thinking about how things work and how they think things could be better. In other words, they do the thinking for us and point to the opportunities and how to fulfill them. The third trend driving thought leadership is the rise of social media. In the past, the sources of knowledge were limited. So in a small town, the experts were the school teacher, the church minister, or the doctor. These were the people that were educated, and you turned to them for their expertise on particular issues. Then we started to listen to mass media, so we had newspapers, radios, television, and they were our sources of knowledge and authority. But given social media, we've gone from a handful of small channels to millions of channels. There's not one source of authority anymore. So we need to go and look for people that we know, like, and trust for their opinion and their expertise and the way they see the world. And this is the rise of the thought leader. Someone we can turn to in the age of social media where there's a million voices to go, I can trust this person, I respect his opinion, he can guide me or she can guide me. To summarise, being a thought leader is being boosted by three main trends. The first is that we're knowledge workers, so we need to source this knowledge from somewhere. And we turn to thought leaders for this. The second is around leadership. Our leaders are so heavily focused on getting things done and coordinating large groups of people that they need to turn to other people who can do their strategic thinking and their knowledge work and their opportunity work to point the way forward. And our third trend is around social media and the need to find authority figures that we can turn to because we trust and respect their opinion. Thought leader meaning. What does it mean to be a thought leader? More specifically, how would you become a thought leader? What actions would you take? As per our previous definition of leading with ideas, let's start by looking at those two parts. Let's start with leadership, and there are two parts here. In Warren Bennis's classic book on becoming a leader, he suggested that we become leaders, or leadership begins when we set out to achieve something. And it's as simple as saying, I want this to happen. That's when the leadership process actually starts. The second part of this is when people see what you're doing and they want to follow you in some way. They might say, I want to join you on your quest, or I might want to follow your progress, or they might copy what you want to do and apply it to their life in their own way. This gives us two actions. The first is that declaration of setting out to achieve something, and the second one is to have people follow us in some way. In this video, you can see both of these actions in play. I've set out to share some thoughts around thought leadership, and here you are following along by watching this video. Now let's look at the other side of things, the thoughts and the ideas. And there's two parts here also. During our day-to-day life, we have lots of experiences. This is the stuff that happens, right? But to be a thought leader, we need to actually translate the stuff that happens to us into some form of insight that might be useful to us and to other people. So there are two steps here. The first one is that designing or arranging of our thoughts, such that we turn our insight into some IP that other people can learn from and gain value from. The second piece is equally crucial, that you need to share these sets of insights, this set of IP with other people so they can get some value out of it. In this video, I've arranged my thoughts into this little diagram with the 4 boxes on it so you can grasp the ideas more easily. Plus, I'm sharing this with you via the YouTube. And make sure you stick around till the end where I'll share my thoughts on whether it's good for your business and your career to be a thought leader. Let's wrap up what we've covered so far. A thought leader is someone we listen to for their thoughts and ideas. 3 trends driving the rise of thought leadership are a shift from physical work to knowledge work, the need for leadership around the latest ideas and thinking, and a demand for knowledge and trusted sources of information and ideas in the age of social media. What it means to be a thought leader and how you become one is based on 4 actions. Number 1 is achieve, when you set out to make something happen. Number 2 is follow, when we allow people to join us in our quest. Number 3 is design, when we arrange our thoughts in a way that other people can learn from them. And number 4 is share, when we make available what we know to others. Now for our big question. Is being a thought leader good for your career and your business? One of the thought leaders I follow is Cal Newport, and he's written a number of books that I love. And my favourite, way back in 2016, my book of the year, was Cal Newport's book, Deep Work. Essentially, Cal divides work into 2 categories, shallow work and deep work. Shallow work is the kind of work most of us do that doesn't take a lot of concentration or deep thinking. It's flipping emails, it's attending meetings, and it's doing logistical things. In contrast, deep work is thinking intensely about important issues. It's strategic thinking, it's coming up with innovative ideas, and it's learning new skills. It's hard work, and most importantly, it's valuable work. It's valuable for 2 reasons. Firstly, it can make a big difference. And secondly, so few people are willing to do the hard work that it takes to pull off. It's also the work that a thought leader does. You do deep work about important issues and you share it with other people. And as I've said in my previous videos on how to be successful as an expert in business, being an expert is not just about what you know. It's who knows that you know. Given you've watched this whole video right through to the end, you've probably enjoyed it and hopefully you've got something out of it. If that's the case, let me know, give me some feedback by hitting that like button down below. That's it for today. Thanks for watching and I'll talk to you again in the next video. Bye.